see so many people here. Sorry it's so hot in here, but I think this little moment will be worth it. My name is Marsha Harvey-Saxon, for those that I haven't met before, and Gigi over there, Judith here is my colleague, and we have worked with Southnord effectively for a year, but longer than that before. And we have started a new tradition, and it's the Up Next open call. And we reach out to young artists between the age of 18 and 28 to submit their works for a solo exhibition here in our space. And we're very, very happy to present the work of Lidiya Solomon. And we always try and collaborate with a young curator for this exhibition. And we have Kihwa-Endale, who has been our young curator for the show. And she is based in Finland. And I would like to invite both Kihwa and Lidiya to come forward and a talk for about 30 minutes, and then the audience can ask questions if you are wondering anything. So,
hi everybody. Almost forgot the water. You have to stay hydrated when you talk. Hi. As we mentioned, my name is unofficially Alex. I'm really happy to be here today and also to have this conversation with Lidiya in front of all of you. But yeah, welcome to this improvised stage. Yeah, and congratulations so much on your first solo exhibition. And it's been such a wonderfully and time compacted process with you until this point, and getting all the ideas together and seeing everything come to fruition has been really special as a process for me personally as a curator, because I don't know if I'm that young anymore, but I'm a bit new to curatorialship, so this has been really nice to work with you as well. Would you like to say, should we do coffee first? Should we maybe pour, would you like a cup of ice?
Do you want me to advertise for sugar?
I kind of like that there's 5 cups, because 5 as a symbolical number is the number of change, so that's nice. Would anybody else like a cup? There's 3 cups left. Yeah? Okay. With or without sugar?
Without sugar. No sugar, please.
Right hand is sugar.
Sugar.
There's one left without sugar. No. Okay. Second. Okay. So I was just gonna say that right now we're only having the coffee bit of the coffee ceremony. We skip to the end where you just get the coffee part. And I was just thinking about how much improvisation has also happened with putting this exhibition together, and maybe if you would like to talk a little bit about the process of improvisation and taking fragments that you see around you to tell a whole story and things like this.
Okay. I'm a little bit nervous, but let me just think where to start. So I feel most of my work is found based on very found materials. Like I collect wooden plates and paints that have been thrown away that I'm really not sure if it's acrylic or if it's oil or if it's like a graphic paint. So I just collect everything that the students throw and I just put them together and yeah, I try to create something out of mostly found materials. Not necessarily because it's what is it called, environmentally, but it started with like necessity, like to find stuff, find materials and then put them together and make something and see if it works. And it became very meditative,
Yeah.
like and then I start to get scared of like the canvas, like the whiteboard or the emptiness of like yeah.
I was just like thinking that I feel sometimes like we find things, but also sometimes it feels like things find us. Because when I watched you like put this together, or like, cause I think yesterday you were just like walking around the neighborhood looking for some pieces of wood, and then you happen to, or like, do you want to maybe tell a little bit more about like how like kind of like this like improvised process of like
I feel like I work with also too much with aesthetic. Like I like something like pleasing to my eyes, and then yesterday when I was looking around, there was something missing, and something, especially for this painting right behind you. And I went around and tried to find something that will maybe help it stand by itself. And then yeah, I work often with aesthetic. If it's balance in my head or if it's balance in my eyes, then that will work. Too many things happens very intuitively, like intuition.
Yeah.
My gut feeling leads me to most of my decision.
Yeah. I think that's what's been like quite interesting about watching your like process from this side as well, because I feel like there's like a lot of like intuitive like decisions like when you are like making the pieces, but then also you mentioned that you also intuitively select images to create the paintings that you take photo. Like, do you want to talk about how you create the images in your paintings a little bit? Because I remember you were like taking both photos from people you know, but then also from.
So most of my work also is based on like people that I know around me. So often like I go with like a little video and I film them while they're doing some random stuff, and then I go through the videos and I screenshot that moment they don't feel like they're been like washed, so it's come like authentically to them.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I go from there like and then I don't do it like to think about like it's going to be a work. I just do it like to bother them, and I so and to annoy them, and then they react, and then I just find those moments very interesting.
I can't remember life before screenshot. I was like, we're just taking photos all the time. But yeah, I think like the idea of screenshot is like quite fascinating as well, because then you can stop time like actually quite physically with the phone or like visually somehow. I remember you were saying you want to like through the artworks you also want to create this like timelessness, or like kind of create this like pause in time. And I was just gonna quickly ask one more thing, because like you said that painting is your main medium, and then like today we are graced with this wonderful work of yours, To the Heart That Hears Me, and I was just curious like how, because it almost, how do I phrase this question? I lost my notes. But kind of like how has like using painting versus video, but also using video for your paintings, like how has like all these different tools affected maybe your understanding of the themes and like what you want to like share with your audience?
I often also don't like to be stuck on one medium of work. I've been always experimenting with different mediums, and I feel like when I was thinking about for this project, I felt like something was missing, because I started with painting some of the pictures at the same time, and then I thought like, okay, okay, what would make this project tie together? And the question of like reimagining was, for me, was like incomprehensive. Like I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't understand the question. It was so big, and then I was so scared to imagine. And then I thought like, okay, video work would show something like as in a ritual. And then I had a friend that knows how to move with certain element of like water. She does this like to the wind, and I thought like, okay, if she can move with the sound of the water, and if I can go and pray for this version of me that knows and is very stable and very like, very
like
grounded
yeah.
in herself. So I thought like it's kind of a ritual. Like I went there to pray, and then the video just happened like naturally. We didn't have like thought about it from A to B. It kind of happened automatically.
Yeah.
So that's why it's 60 minutes for just feeling the water and feeling the movement, and me just also kind of taking that moment, and it became something that could tie this whole project together.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the same without it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking also like, because you used the mirror in the making of the video, and I was wondering like, because both water and mirror are they reflect some sort of image, and then I was wondering like, did you have some like new understanding of your own self-image through making this work?
Not a new image, but I felt like I met myself in that version of her that was like more stable and more grounded and more like, it reminded me of like Oshun, like a god, like, and yeah, so it was not like something about me also, but something I saw in her that
it like resonated
yes,
somehow.
yeah,
It's beautiful when you can also like work with someone that like you kind of have a good synergy like that. I was also thinking, because the video is projected on the Netala, and that like you mentioned yesterday that it's like the first time like using elements from your own cultural background, and I was curious about like, because I think sometimes like when you spend a lot of time portraying others and then you start to like open the door of like portraying yourself, it can be almost this like act of like vulnerability in a sense. Or how have you felt about maybe like showing more of like your own?
I mean, this is the first time, so I felt like that I was a little bit connected to my heritage, because in my artwork I've been very distant of like my culture, but I take the culture of the diaspora, like where I grew up in, or where I am right now in Oslo. So this kind of project I had to dig deeper, like this question, Marsha. I had to be very honest, like when you asked me to reimagine, I had to really, really dig deeper to answer the question. Or it started with like, oh, I have to answer this, and then it went to like, okay, I have to investigate this. So yeah, so it was like, and when I was investigating it, it took me back to my own roots. So it's just the first way of like being confronted also of what I have kind of abandoned a little bit, not being proud of it, or so this has gotten, this has opened a little door to also show it more abstractly than like traditionally, like I wanted, that became very like abstractly shown, like
it turned out so beautiful.
Three heads to the
I was wondering, like, is there something from any one of these paintings where you, like, there was some part of like creating the works that you're like, I want the viewer to know this, or like that this happened during the making of it, or maybe even like if like there's any figures in any of these paintings that you had a conversation with, that you were like, this, like that, if that like aided somehow in your.
I feel like I'm very honest when I paint. I tell mostly all the truth that I can with the painting and with the when I give the work a title, I try to be more honest. So I don't want to tell the audience all the things that I'm thinking about while making the painting. I just want them to feel also they're a part of, so they can interact and make their own assumptions. Like I feel like I have said so much with the painting and with the titles already, and it became more like I don't want to like kusha.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but I think you really like feel that in the paintings. That like at least like for myself, like I get just like some like abstract like emotional response, and then to like know more, I kind of want to like engage with all the details in your work, which there are. It's abundant in detail as well. I was just like wondering as well, like how do you like what's your like when you create the images, because I feel like if you look at this painting, for example, versus this painting, like you're also like constructing the canvas as well as the image. So I'm just wondering how is like the difference of like image making between like when the canvas is already one thing versus when you're like constructing the canvas as well. Safety hazard. No, I think I'm too tall for this, but I think I'm balanced.
what was the question?
Oh, about like when you create the image, that like because here the canvas is like one board, but then for example in this canvas you have like many pieces of like boards that you're putting together, and then creating like this more like collage, yeah, assemblage kind of image. Or like, do you want to maybe talk more about the assemblage technique for you?
I mean, I feel like for this and that painting, it was all happened very accidental, like putting the found wooden board, and then putting them together. But it also, it depends also what the painting needs. I think I said it in the beginning, like I'm very into aesthetics, and it's the wrong way to say it, but I feel like I have to be honest, like, and what the person that needs in the painting, that I go intuitively, like, and in that painting, it needed like this very like framed study, like what is it called, stableness, like this.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show
like a foundation?
Yeah, something like heavy, and the frame, and then on the other side the frame was, I had to cut the frame out because I wanted something like but yeah, it depends also on what the painting needs, and because there's some places that I have to cut a piece of the wood out because they didn't need all of that wood.
Yeah.
Yes. So it depends.
I was also like wondering, like I noticed like in a couple of the paintings there's like the subject is taking a photo with the phone camera, and it feels like so interactive with you as a viewer. And I was just wondering, like, what are your thoughts around like interactive gaze between like the viewer and the subjects of your paintings, or like what is like the if you've had some like thought around.
I thought about it like that. I thought about more on like reflecting my like this age, my 20s, like it's very like the phone is kind of a part of you, and I just wanted to show that, like I see sometimes the world through the phone, and like, and this is like a part of you that you can go back and analyze what you have taken a picture of, or sometimes it's easier to interact with people through your phone also, instead of like this face to face. I just wanted to reflect that more, like, yeah, this is also like this phone is. Yeah.
I'm not really sure how to sense the time frame at the moment.
But I have
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if
Yeah.
anyone has questions.
Because when we saw your submission, like we didn't speak to each other, and everyone made like a favorite list, and you were top of all our lists. And for me personally, it was because there was like such a strong voice, like you had your own voice, but you're still studying. So I'm curious about what you have with you from before you entered art school, and how art school is molding you and maybe changing your voice or affecting how you like naturally work. Like, yeah, if you can tell us about your journey before and after, because I'm curious what's coming from you, because it feels like it's coming from you. I haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I felt like when I was creating that work and that one work, I felt more freer, like because the school was there to support me and to kind of guide me on the technical stuff. And I'm feeling also this pressure right now when you enter like what is it called, the university. There's the pressure of to contextualize your work, and I feel like that's where I'm gonna miss my, like, you know, the sense of what my art was supposed to be, because this part of like me trying to explain it and to contextualize it kind of makes me lose the spark. So I feel like when I created my early works, there was more freedom, and because of I was more focused on the technicality and how to solve the problems on the canvas instead of like I'm gonna have to explain it later on. Yeah. So maybe I try not to be fearful now. Like that's why I have seen this for 1 year. Like I'm becoming more fearful of not being authentically curious about the material, but more on focusing to explaining the work. So yeah.
Do you think you can still keep that connection to the curiosity and the?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Anyone else can jump in if you have a question.
I don't know if you mentioned this early on when we were talking about that you were walking around the neighborhood trying to find some material. How do you go on about to find the hard, the wood? Where do you find it and where are you looking for it?
We have a lot of containers. I go dumpster diving all the time. I love it. I love picking up stuff from like when I'm walking. I love to. Yeah, I have like friends that are very concerned for me also health-wise. Yes. My eyes always like, also when I'm having conversation with friends, my eyes is always looking for stuff, but that's how I listen to them also. And I pick up everywhere I go.
I can attest to that, because yesterday you said, I'm just, do you know where I can find something? I said, well, there's a big bag in the park over here. So you could look at that. And then you guys were gone for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, and then you came back with this giant wooden like block that someone had built. I was like, did you steal it? Is it somebody looking for you? But it was like a rickety old thing, and I was gone for, I don't know, a couple of hours, and suddenly there was a new piece made. That piece. That piece was made yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was actually really truly amazed by your artisticness, that you can transform this thing that's just been put on the scrap heap and find beauty in it and find purpose in it and find a story in it, and you let the wood itself or the memories and the stories that it's carrying, you let it also shine through, and while you're adding your own story and memory. So.
But I have to also give it to credit to my friend and Alex from yesterday. They've been so patient and coming up with like different ways, and I cannot take credit by that one by myself. I actually praise your credit.
But I was also like, while we were talking about that piece, I was like wondering what it felt like to also like redraw the embroidery patterns, because I was thinking about this idea of like preserving tradition and forging new paths, and I felt like watching you make this work kind of felt a little bit like watching that crisscross moment of okay, things have been like this before, and I'm gonna do like and like so. How did it feel like to like also like make the
For me, like,
pattern?
yeah, the making of stuff is much easier than like to, yeah, make sense of it, of what I'm doing. That's the hardest part. Like, I feel like I love putting stuff together and yeah, but explaining to you what led me to that decision is so hard to answer. Sometimes it comes like after 3 months later, I'm like, oh my god, that's what I was working on. Yeah.
Hi. So I'm curious about, I'll stage a scenario because I can completely understand when you say that you make a thing and then you're expected to explain it in a particular way. So in an ideal situation, how would you best articulate your work if you aren't prescribing to a particular writing style or speaking in it? What would be the best way? Is there a sense maybe that you would like to rather use?
I feel like also like I think we talked about this a lot. My language skills in any language is very limited, and I never felt like I could express truly what I mean like in one language. I feel like I found my language here, and I feel like I'm saying a lot, and at the same time I have to use another language to say another thing also, which I'm gonna learn in the future. But I feel like this is a language to me. This is how I make sense of stuff that is like don't make sense. Like this life don't make sense. Like it's a very unrealistic world, and it's yeah. And finding a language gives you like safety, and this is my safety, and where I can say everything boldly. Yeah, it's
Beautifully safe.
yeah, that's really good.
I met Lidiya 5 years ago, and what attracted me in your artwork, like because in Norway, like especially the people who moved to Norway in very early age, and sometimes they have this kind of question of where do we belong, the disconnection. And in Lidiya work, I felt like, wow, she has a really deep meaning. She understands where she came from and culture, and you know, to have that color, it's not easy, you know. It needs to be someone who understands not only about the culture, but also understand about the nature, about the history, about a lot of things. But always when I ask, no, like, you know, like. Do you believe in yourself now? Thank you.
I don't know.
I can say like from the sidelines, I feel like maybe you have like even if you have like moments of like uncertainty, I feel like you have like quite like a strong sense of like this is what I want for my paintings. Because I feel like you have a really strong relationship to your artistic process. From the sidelines, or like it looks like also that like, because you are like maintaining quite like a, or like I feel like you protect also like your relationship to your works in that way, and that like comes through also in like how you make your decisions for stuff as well. Yeah. Final words. Any final questions? Would you?
Yes, perhaps it's a bit outside the my question is because I think sorry. Go ahead. It's okay because I'm trying to reach out. Because I think you have a very stories. But then again, as an artist, I know it's difficult to give a name to a painting. And that sometimes is really frustrating because the title of a painting, most people want a title. They want an explanation. What am I seeing? You know, what am I looking at? And then you give the title, but as an artist, you're trying to say so much more. So what is your relationship to the titles of your paintings? Or how do you,
Yeah, I have also gotten similar criticism and feedback. I used to never give titles of my work, and then I got a lot of criticism, and and then I had to start to also think about maybe people need a little bit like a window to the work, and then I just started to do poetry. I started reading poems, and then I started to get stuck on one word, and then I read it over and over again until it makes sense to me to give the work that title. For now it works, but I don't know how long it can work.
If there are no more final questions, I didn't think about how to close the conversation, but it's really nice to be here with you, and if you have any questions later on, I think there are a few more hours, and can ask Lidiya directly,
So thank you very much.
Goodbye.
There's more to drink, and there's more cake, birthday cake in the kitchen. Let's mingle. We have